far and down.
What a shot!
All right, guys, we now welcome on ESPN sportscaster, co-host of SportsCenter, play-by-play guy for the NCAA Hockey Championships, and creator of the great Bucci OT Challenge, John Buccigross. Bucci man, welcome to the pod. How you doing?
Peace. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of let's just start here because you're known as the hockey guy pretty much at ESPN, you and Melrose, but I don't think a lot of people really know where it all started. So when did hockey start for you? When did you fall in love with the game? I mean, did you play growing up outside of Pittsburgh or?
Yeah, my dad was born and raised in South Boston, Massachusetts. Kind of like the Good Will Hunting character. He was really good at math, but he didn't swear. That's the only difference. My dad was one of those dads who never swore, but he was tough. He was in the Army. He was blue collar, born during the Depression. Played hockey in high school with no mask. Just a good all around athlete. Very competitive. Loved sports. If he was a crack dealer, I would have grown up a crack dealer. Whatever my dad was, I was going to be. I was always at his hip pocket. And he loved all sports. And in the early 70s, when I would have been, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, the Boston Bruins were the biggest thing in Boston with Bobby Orr at the helm. And so that was just a big magnetic thing for him. I absorbed that, especially through radio. Because we lived in Pennsylvania, as you mentioned, but back then you could get radio stations all over the country as clear as a bell, from St. Louis to Boston, and so we listened to Bruins games on the radio crystal clearly. And he would leave meticulous statistics. He's a very organized guy, and so yeah, I just kind of grew up the game on the radio. When you grow up the game with the radio, you invent the game in your mind. You kind of picture it and invent it. And to me, it was this big gothic My Chemical Romance video where it was just blood and these old arenas with an organ playing. And it was like church. My parents were also very Catholic. So we grew up, we went to Stations of the Cross every holy day of obligation. I was an altar boy. And so to me, hockey and church were a lot alike. There's a lot of blood, a lot of organs, these big churches, church-like backgrounds. And so it left a real visceral image in my brain. And so it really stuck. Again, I loved all sports, whatever season it was. I followed the clock. I was one of those rare American kids who also added hockey to the basketball, baseball, football menu. So I was just kind of an aberration because of my dad, because where he grew up, because of the Bruins were so popular. If the Bruins sucked in the early 70s, maybe hockey wouldn't have made as an impression on me. So I played certainly street hockey, skated on the pond. I could always skate because my dad took us obviously skating. There was never any organized hockey where I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. There is now, but there wasn't when I grew up. So I had to go on ponds, street hockey, play in the living room with actually they didn't even have mini sticks when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So you play between the legs of a love seat or whatever. And so it was pretty real. And I took everything really seriously and paid attention to everything pretty seriously at a young age.
So was the Bruins game the first NHL game you ever went to?
Well, we would go to Pittsburgh once or twice or 3-4 times a year to see Penguins games. Sometimes it was the Bruins, but not always. But certainly when the Bruins came to town, my dad would take me 1 hour drive to Pittsburgh to go see the Bruins and see them in real person. He also used to take me to minor league hockey games in Johnstown.
Oh, yeah.
Where they got the inspiration for Slapshot, the Johnstown Jets. I remember seeing bench clearing brawls I'll never forget this one dude. He looked like he was 70 years old as I look back. Because back then, guys who were 40 looked like they were 70 today. It's a different time. And I just remember him being on top of this guy, just drilling him, just feeding him with these punches. And again, I'm 7 years old. I think it was my brother was in the Boy Scouts. I wasn't always big on groups and organized things. So I kind of did the Boy Scouts thing without being in the Boy Scouts because I think my mom was a den mother. It was like a field trip. So we went there and there was a bench clearing brawl to give the youth of America a nice role model afternoon. So, yeah. And whenever game was on TV, I would watch. And so, yeah, like I said, it was just, sports fanatic. My dad was a sports fanatic. And so I absorbed it and consumed it like he did.
Yeah, and you've been consuming it obviously to an insane amount the past couple years. I mean, for obviously with your career too. So let's kind of start. I mean, where this season ended, we'll start with college hockey. Who were kind of some of the teams that you thought were going to make that Final Four trip, or the Frozen Four, I should say? I believe it was in Michigan this year in Detroit. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of good teams. You had some sleepers like Penn State that was making a huge push. That a team that's never been one of those. I mean, what were your thoughts? Who were some teams that you saw maybe winning the championship?
Yeah, it looked like North Dakota and Cornell were the big two. Obviously, North Dakota, great traditional power. Cornell hasn't won one in a long time. That would have been cool if they would have got to the Frozen Four. They have a lot of rich alumni, so they probably would have flown to the game in their private jet to
Right.
Detroit. I always root for a good Frozen Four that could, create the most buzz. I would like to see Ohio State there. They would have been a slight – it's not sitting there. They've been a top 10 team all year, but, people would have driven up from Columbus to Detroit, not a long drive. You always root for a Michigan team to get there. The Wolverines were coming a little bit. Minnesota State's been a good regular season team the last few years. Haven't had great tournament success yet. So, and you mentioned Penn State, great program early in their creation. Next year, the Frozen Four's in Pittsburgh, where I did my first one in 2013. It'd be cool if they got there. That's, again, it's great for attendance, great for buzz. So, but they lost a lot of guys this year. You can see they've had 7 or 8 guys sign professional contracts. So this was the year for them. They had a lot of depth, but they should recruit pretty well going forward. They have a great coach, and it'd be cool to see them in Pittsburgh.
That Pittsburgh one in 13, that was Yale and Quinnipiac, right?
Yeah, Yale's first national championship.
Right.
Would have been Quinnipiac's first, so we had a guaranteed first champion. That was really cool. Like I said, I was born there. I was born about a driver in Threewood from the arena, so it was kind of cool for me to do my first, again, a kid growing up an hour from there, listening to hockey games on the radio when I was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, and then end up being able to call a national championship game there. Like I said, a few blocks from where I was born in Allegheny General Hospital.
Yeah.
It's just, life's cool, man, and America is really cool, and
right.
So sometimes shit like that happens.
I remember sitting in the because I was in West Virginia at the time. We drove up to Pittsburgh for that to get some college hockey, and I was like, "This is nuts."
So, go ahead, AB.
I was gonna say, do you see Arizona State ever making a push here soon for the Final Four? I mean, I know they're a pretty new team in the NCAA, but I feel like they could recruit pretty well. I mean, Arizona State's a fun school to go to. A lot of hockey guys, I'm sure, would love to go there, and I just think they could recruit well and get good enough to go and make that push.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to bring a recruit there and, to see the weather, the girls, it's a great place, obviously, to recruit. It's an easy place to recruit.
The uniforms, too.
Yeah, awesome. Great colors, great coach. And, obviously they don't have a conference yet, which in some ways can work to their advantage.
Right.
They can build up some pairwise points pretty well. We'll see at some point if they are able to get in a conference. But yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a whole new world. It's not the world isn't like it used to be. Anybody can be famous quickly because of technology. Any school can recruit if they get the right guy and they get the right momentum and they get the right vibe and they have the weather on their side as a recruiting tool.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the greatest facilities in terms of a rink, and that can certainly be a big factor for a kid. But if they can work out and they can have a great place to get better and get stronger, that's the biggest thing for them. And it's kind of cool to play in those little rinks now. There's a big home rink advantage. You can really play. They play a really on the edge, old school college hockey style, which I think also helps them because a lot of kids aren't prepared for that and they get rattled, especially there.
So jumping to the NHL, kind of we were talking about the NCAA 4 teams. What are 4 teams from the NHL, 2 from the East, 2 from the West that you saw making a push for the Stanley Cup this year?
Yeah, I like how that question was framed. I thought the big 2 in the East were Tampa and Boston. If I had a bet, I always say, what would you bet your paycheck on? It's not a whole bunch of money, but it's one paycheck, and we all need our paycheck to pay our rent. So, like, if I had to bet a paycheck on the East for 2 teams, I would take Boston and Tampa. But certainly Pittsburgh and Washington were right there. They're like, Washington's probably as there as Tampa and Boston. So it might be even smarter to take Washington. But Tampa was really coming. They had a lot to play for because of how they were embarrassed last year getting swept by Columbus. The Bruins are just a real deep wagon of a team. They're coming, but Washington's right there. Pittsburgh's probably the only other team I could see. And Toronto. You'd have to give Toronto an outside chance if everything worked perfectly for them.
Right.
And all those young kids went nuts and they got great goaltending. Could have happened. Reasonable chance. But Boston and I would go Boston and Tampa probably in the East. In the West, I think St. Louis is still the favorite. to get back there again. So I think still the best team from day one of the regular season. They were ready for the playoffs.
Right.
They're constructed for the playoffs, and that'll probably go Vegas. They've been so aggressive. They have a veteran goaltender. He might be starting to slip a little bit, but I would probably still go Vegas because when teams prepare and trade and make these trades with the championship in mind, I think that actually feeds into the roster in a good way. And they're like, okay, hey, when those playoffs arrive, they're like, okay, we're ready. They built us for this. We have the parts for this. Now this is our time. And they almost feel entitled in a good way. And so that's probably why I would lean towards Vegas as my other team in the West.
Yeah, so my opinion on that, like Tampa Bay, I completely agree with. They were just – I mean, they had a slow start to the season, but then they just ramped it up. And I think this may have been their year. I mean, that they've been struggling. They've been right there every single season, it feels like. And I think this may have been the year they get there. The other team that was scaring me out of the East was Philly. Philly was on fire at the end there. And I thought they were heating up at the right time. And Washington, honestly, they have the experience to get back to where they were beforehand, but they were rolling at a 500 clip since about the end of December, I think. So yeah, I feel like Philly and Tampa would have been my two teams, and then St. Louis and Vegas. I feel like Vegas was heating up. St. Louis has always been rolling, and Colorado was right there too, I thought.
Yeah, I mean the Capitals might have been bored with the regular season because they know this is it for them. Holtby's gone.
Right.
They they have some salary like Tampa. This is it for Tampa. I mean, they have salary cap Armageddon. They have to make a lot of moves. So when you have that, like the Capitals, it's like I think it's just you go for absolute broke, and sometimes that can play in your favor. But I agree. You have to pay attention to long-term trends, and maybe it just like you said, there was a bit of a malaise with the Caps, but I still think they would have turned it on late. And they would have figured out a way to be a fact. Like I said, but I respect you. I just think the young goaltender with Philly could have been a factor in the playoffs. But now, if the playoffs are shorter and not a 2-month odyssey, and now everyone's refreshed,
right,
everyone's healthy, then you could throw Philly back in the mix.
So that kind of leads into the next question. If the season does return, there's been all these rumors tossed around, 2014 playoff, neutral sites, multiple teams. What do you think is the most entertaining way to go about these playoffs if they were to happen, and what's the most realistic?
I mean, they're always entertaining, so they probably that two-part question probably falls hand in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to imagine a playoff hockey with no fans. What that vibe is like, it's got to be weird.
Yeah.
I mean, the UFC stuff, that's different because those guys started usually in small, remote places. It's still a fight. I mean, there's a guy right in front of you fighting.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter about the fans for them. It's they're so focused because they don't want to get their face smashed in. But hockey just really relies on that. The emotional sports rely on that. So yeah, I mean, that's the big mystery. Could it be entertaining? Will it be theatrical? Will it have drama in an empty arena? And that's the big question. We just don't know. And this is just such new ground. It's hard to forecast what it looks like, what it would feel like. Would it feel legitimate? And just imagine if they bring the cup out and no one's in the arena. I mean,
right?
That's
kind of like
I can't. It's implausible to even think about that.
Yeah, like last year, St. Louis has the fireworks behind them, and then
Right.
they do fireworks with no one in there. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and it's cool when you're on the road in front of all the fans who wanted you to lose. Like that's a cool vibe. It's almost cool to win it on the road. They're two totally different feelings, and they're both great, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's kind of neat to win it on the road in a lot of ways.
Yep.
You do the lap with the cup, and there's just nobody in the arena. You're like, everybody's just skating around. Like, what the fuck?
Exactly. Hopefully at that point you bring in some family members. Maybe even you go every 4 seats, every third row. You can do something,
right, to make it work.
So kind of switching gears here a little bit. A lot of the time on Twitter, OV scores a goal. You have that OV Gretzky chase countdown to catch Gretzky, basically. Talk a little bit about that. What you see? I mean, you've posted a million times what you see happening there, but obviously this kind of slows down things and makes things unpredictable. What do you see happening here?
Yeah, he came to film his This Is Sports Center commercial, where Sergey with Varlamov.
Right.
Him.
What's his first name?
Simeon
Simeon,
Varlamov.
yeah,
Yeah, but they were Russian spies or whatever.
Russian spies. So while he was there, I said, this is my chance maybe to interview him, because at that point I started writing a hockey column on ESPN.com in 2001 and did that for about 15, 16 years. Probably when my career is all said and done, that'll be one of my favorite things I did, because it was all mine. I could do whatever I wanted every week. And so while he was there filming that commercial, which was 2010, 9 or 10, he's a young guy. He's like 24.
Yeah.
It just kind of dawned on me that, he's off to a start. And I'm like I said, I've always been observant since I've been a little kid. I see he's a big, powerful guy. He's got a big ass. He's got a great shot. And and great slap shots don't age. Like you have a slap shot till you're 50 when you got a slap shot. And I'm thinking, and so I remember, I guarantee I'm the first person ever who asked him, could you break Wayne Gretzky's record? Because he's 24.
Right.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
So I guarantee this is my story, and everybody better cite their sources in the future. And so I asked him, and obviously he was stunned. He didn't even, I don't think he really, but he's really a cool guy. I was really impressed with him that day, just seeing how he interacts with people and his manners and all kinds of stuff. He really grounded human. I like him a lot. And then so at that point, I wrote this column kind of forecasting, taking into consideration, as you age and things can go down, then also historical precedents. When Brett Hall was this age, he scored this many goals. When Brendan Shanahan was this age, he scored this many goals. When Phil Esposito, I'm looking for guys in the slot, live in the slot with big shots like Hall. Esposito never really big shot, but he's a big guy. Shanahan, the same kind of type of player, right-handed shot, and like Hall and Ovechkin. So I kind of went through the years and said, when he's 37, Brett Hall scored 37 goals. Why can't he? Brendan Shanahan at age 36 scored this many goals. Why couldn't Ovechkin? He's got a better shot. He's better than Shanahan. Hall, he's probably about his equal, but he's a better athlete than Hall. He's got his mom was a great basketball player. His dad was a great soccer player. He's got great genetics. And so I just went through the year by year. And I didn't even add it up. I just went through a little bit of attrition, a little bit of a historical comparison, and played till 40, which at the time still wasn't totally unreasonable. And I got to a point where it was actually really high. It was well above Gretzky. So I scaled it back. And like I said, so at this point in my mind, I'll be shocked if he doesn't break it. I'll be more surprised if he doesn't score 1,000 goals than if he breaks Gretzky's record.
I like to hear that.
That's how I look at it. And if people say this year, what about this year? How much? He had 11 games he lost. It cost him like 5 goals.
Yeah.
It cost him 3 weeks.
Yeah, the only thing that pisses us off about it is that he doesn't hit 50 again. We want to see that 50 burger.
Yeah, we're big
right.
50 a year pod.
Yeah, I mean, he lost the first lockout because he would have been a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
He would have played when he was 18. And so I gave him like 35 goals. He scored 50 his rookie year, but he was 19. So let's give him 35 when he's 18. He was so good the second lockout year, the 48-game year.
Yeah.
He was so good.
30-plus goals.
He wouldn't have had much more. So give him 10 more, say. Now he's got 45. And this year it might have cost him, like I said, 6 goals, maybe 5.
Yeah.
So now you're talking like 50 goals. So I don't think it's – again, that's a full season. But for him, and as he gets closer, and like I said, with his body and his commitment, he's got a kid now. He's going to want his kid to see him do well.
Right.
His kid is 7, 8, 9. In the old days, hockey players got married young at 20, 21, 22. Now they get married at 30, 31, 32, 33. So he's going to have that extra motivation because his kid doesn't remember him now. But when his kid becomes 7, 8, he'll be able to remember his dad playing hockey. Right. He's going to have extra motivation to go.
Yeah.
And that may continue till he's 43, 44. I mean, George Blanda played quarterback for the Raiders when he was 47. People talk about Tom Brady. George Blanda did it in the 70s. He played quarterback when he was 47.
Yep.
So it's not like this is new. So, and like I said, I take my Ovechkin projection only until 40. But he certainly could go like Yager and those guys. He'd go more. And like I said, he might want to do that for his son. I assume he'll have more babies, 1 or 2 more. He's going to want to play so those kids can remember him. Yeah. So between that, obviously, catastrophic injury is always a possibility, and any other thing. And but I'll be shocked if he doesn't do it.
Right? Yeah, I mean, like you said, he could have like a Yager career, play till 44, Chelios played till 47, shit like that. But yeah, I think when I really looked into it was when I think he tweeted maybe 3 or 4 years ago. He has to average 34 goals until the age of 40. I was like, that is very, very doable.
Very doable. Like I said, like you said. And look at him now. He's not – and every time he has a year like this year, it keeps lowering.
Right, exactly.
32, 31. And like I said, these guys, Hall, Shanahan, Esposito, they had later in their 37, 36, they'll have a big year where everything goes right. And the other thing is he's got Kuznetsov and Backstrom. He's playing with great players.
Right.
That's important. That's luck. That's important too. It's like Patrice Bergeron is playing between Pasternak and Marchand.
Yeah.
I mean, those are top 5 wingers in the game. Now Bergeron, I had him as a borderline Hall of Famer when he was 30. Now he's a lock.
Yeah, he definitely is now.
And a lot of it is because he got fortunate to play between 2 guys who are awesome hockey players.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So you cover the sport, I mean, at the highest level of sports media there is, and a lot of people have done the same throughout Ovi's past, have obviously criticized him, talked a little bit of shit on his defensive play, this, that, and the other. Did you ever have those thoughts about him? Did you ever kind of think the defense was bad? I mean, we can obviously say Milbury was never a fan of his, was really dragging his game a lot, but did you ever have some of those similar thoughts early in his career?
No, I defended him from day one.
That's our guy.
I thought the Russian thing was just – I don't know what the term is. I don't want to use the incorrect term, but Canadians, and obviously Milbury's an American, but Canadians would always go anti-Russian whenever they could.
Yep.
And like I said, I just don't have any – I don't have – luckily, I don't – it's not a – I don't – I'm not looking for a compliment in terms of, nationalism – or racism, or it's just sexism. It's just not I just don't understand any of it. So,
right.
But again, that's just the way I'm born, thankfully. So it's not like it's an effort for me to feel that way. It says, I don't get it. I always made the comparison with Ovechkin. He actually reminded me of my son, Jack, and even Brett, my older son. They both played hockey since at a young age. I built a backyard rink in my yard here in Connecticut. Whenever somebody else scored, he's more excited when somebody else scores.
Right.
Than when he scores. Yeah. To me, that says so much about a human, about a person, that he genuinely gets so excited when somebody else scores. And to me, once I saw that for the first time, I was hopelessly devoted to Ovi. It's like, that shows you're a good person when you instinctively feel so happy when somebody else scores a goal, because it's so hard to score. That's why players go nuts when they score. It's difficult. Like I said, I played every sport growing up: basketball, baseball, football, hockey, golf, tennis, and there's not a more frustrating sport than hockey. It's the most frustrating sport. You will commit misdemeanors and felonies because you're holding that stick and because of frustration more than any other sport. That's why when guys whack guys and slash guys and even say things, I give them all a pass.
Yep. The wires have crossed, so that's it.
Nothing turns you into a devil like hockey. It's that's just the way it is. And so for him to act that way, I just love it. So I've always tried to defend Russians, defend him in every step of the way.
Yeah, we welcome all Ovechkin supporters here, obviously. So something kind of interesting is, the book you wrote with Jonesy and about Jonesy, that came out back in 2007. I'm kind of interested of how that all went down, because I believe it was only in 2006. It was a year prior you signed the book deal, and then you guys cranked it out, got it out the year later. Correct me if I'm wrong, but how does that go down? Do you just kind of meet up with him and just guys have a couple bourbons and start spitting stories out and writing it down, or? A
little bit. Okay, so what happened was Keith Jones, and which the book kind of spells out, had to retire early. What happened was he tore his ACL trying to slew foot Eric Daze. which he's very open about. It was kind of his fault. He tries to slew fit Eric Daze in the playoffs, tears ACL. At that point, you have two options. You can either take a cadaver to fix your ACL, or you can take the middle part of your patella tendon in your kneecap, use that to fix your ACL, and then your patella tendon grows back. It regenerates and grows back. His never grew back. So he's complaining about his knee. Doctors, keep looking and say, your ACL is fine. He goes, there's something wrong. He's playing in the NHL, and he can't jog across the street. Like, he literally cannot jog across the street to avoid cars. He's afraid he might die trying to cross because he can't run, but he can still play hockey because they can tape it up and you can just glide and you can figure it out. So anyway, so he has to retire, and he comes to work at ESPN to get in television. They always give the guys who interview well the first chance at television. But when you're interviewing after a game, your shirt's off, endorphins are flying, you're just answering questions. It's different. You go to a TV, you got a suit, you got makeup, lights are on. Okay, be interesting in 15 seconds. Where kind of you got to, with interviews in the locker room, you kind of shoot the shit with the guys, and you're comfortable. It's your atmosphere. And so he comes up with me to do a game. So we do the preview, then we do in between periods, and then the post game. And he's terrible. He's like we do the pregame and we go to commercial, and he's like sweating, and he goes, "Boy, this is a lot harder than I thought." So as it turns out, so in the meantime, but we were hanging out, we're going golfing, we're like you said, we're having a drink or two, and he's telling these amazing stories after a year or two. Because what happened was he left, kind of flamed out, went back to Philadelphia and did local stuff, local flyer stuff. Came back in the playoffs, and he was great. And that's the same. It kind of mirrors his NHL career, where he wasn't like he always used to say he'd go home in the summer, and all his buddies were better than he was at hockey, but he just kept showing up. He just kept showing up and showing up. Guys would get homesick, they'd miss their girlfriend, they'd miss their hometown, and they would quit eventually in juniors or minor leagues and go back. He just kept showing up, and he made the NHL because all my friends were like, a lot of my friends were better than me. So like I said, he came back and he was really good. His suit looked better. He got it. He's one of those guys who understands, he figures things out and understands how things work. And so, but he told all his great stories. And at some point I'm like, we really should write a book. I mean, you have all these great stories, and I'm writing my column, so I'm kind of in a writing mode. I figure I can just write each chapter like a hockey column. And so we just got into that, and I kind of put all these stories down. A couple he left out that I wish he would have kept in. But yeah, and the big kicker for me was I didn't really want to write a book because it's a lot of work. But what happened was my basement flooded, and I thought a lot of it was my back porch, backyard area kind of pitched towards the house, and I felt like, geez, that's one reason why it might have happened. If we could just pitch it back the other way. So I wanted to pay for a back patio that could kind of grate it and put a patio in, and that might absorb some of the moisture. So if my basement never flooded, I probably never would have written that book. Wow. Writing a book was hard. So the advance for the book paid for the little back patio. It wasn't a lot of money, but it's enough to pay for the back patio. And that's why I wrote the book, because my basement, I kept putting it off. But Jonesy was great. He's been on NBC for a long time. And yeah, just a really cool story of a guy who didn't work out, ate pizza in the summer, played junior B, junior C, never played major junior, went to college hockey. Again, just showed up, and he ended up playing with Peter Forsberg and then playing with Eric Lindros. So, I mean, and now he's on NBC for the last, 15 years?
He's doing a great job on the national broadcast.
He's a great guy, and just who knows, maybe we'll work together again in the future.
Right. So quick fire question off of that. If you had the opportunity to do the same book, the story of an NHL player's life, past or present, the history of the game, which guy would you choose?
I talked with Chris Drury early on, a while back about maybe doing one with him, because he had a really interesting life with the Little League World Series. Won a national championship at BU, wins Rookie of the Year with the Avalanche in the NHL. Wins the Stanley Cup. Now he's almost running the Rangers. He's just a really interesting guy, and that didn't quite, like I said, it's hard to write a book, and at some point I'd like to write a book of all my favorite hockey columns that I've written on ESPN for 15 years. Maybe go back, maybe improve them a bit, and then maybe write like a column looking back at that, what I was thinking about, and update them, kind of like a then and now kind of a thing.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, something to leave my kids, something to kind of just a simple little book, a bathroom book or whatever book, just to kind of. So I've been thinking about maybe doing that. I probably should do that now. Now that things are slowing.
Or just go the audio book route, so you just got to talk the whole time and not have to worry about writing any damn thing down.
Yeah, because it's hard to write a book.
KP?
Yeah, so I believe it was like 2012 playoffs when the Bucci OTE challenge started. Was that just like a simple tweet you sent out? Really weren't thinking about it? Was there a plan behind it? Can go through that?
Yeah, none of my life is a plan. Back at NHL Tonight when ESPN had hockey, I got hired in '96. I got the NHL Tonight job in the fall of '98 and had that till 2004. And that was a big deal. Before the internet video was any good, you had to watch NHL Tonight to see hockey highlights. So it was a kind of an appointment viewing to see. And I didn't realize how many people watched. Like I said, when I started doing the show, I feel like I'm in a closet at 1 a.m. doing these hockey highlights, and I go to the All-Star game in Tampa Bay, and it just looks like everybody's looking at me. Like, isn't everybody looking at Mike Modano? Is like, like all these players and media, like, why are they looking at me? And then people started to say, "Hey, I love the show. I love the show." And it didn't dawn on me anybody was watching. I'm kind of oblivious. I'm kind of dumb that way. I don't understand. I see little things. I don't see big things.
Right.
So I couldn't believe people actually watched and they really liked it. And that was really cool. But, when our show would go to the playoffs, we would follow a playoff game. And when it went to overtime, we don't know how long it's going to end. We had a Penguin Flyer, 5 overtime game once. Mm-hmm. And luckily it was a 7:00 game. But me, Melrose, and Ferraro would throw $1 on the set and pick one guy in each team. And if your guy happened to score, we would take the other $2, put it in our pocket, and start the show. And if someone scored nobody had, we would put our dollar back and start the show. And yeah, back like in 2012, I just figured I was in the parking lot. I'd see the Bruins game and against the Canadians. I drove up to Boston. I don't live very far from Boston. And I figured I'll just throw this out there. I call it the Bucci Overtime Challenge. It's kind of a dumb name. It was kind of a very literal name. Probably if I ever had a focus group, I probably wouldn't pick that name. But I just threw it out there as a lark, and I was surprised how. And I would retweet 10 people because retweeting was big currency back then.
Oh yeah.
And so I'd retweet 10 people, and I just couldn't believe it. The more I did it, the more I couldn't believe all these people were playing, so to speak. And then toward the end of that first year, I go, maybe I'll make T-shirts next year. And I'll give like 10 away to winners, and then I'll also give you a chance to buy them, and I'll give the money away to a hockey charity of some sort. So I bought 1,000 T-shirts. I was really nervous. It was like $6 a piece. Small, medium, large, extra large, double XL. It cost me like $5,000. I'm like, am I going to sell these T-shirts? Crap. So I give away 10, and like I said, and people start sending me money in the mail in envelopes. Like I don't have a website or anything. They're just sending me money.
You told them in 10 minutes.
Yeah, please. And then eventually I got a GoDaddy website, and then I got a Shopify now, and I give it away $250,000 because of this silly game and because of college hockey. And so, yeah, it's been a really cool way to connect with fans and give me something to do during the day as my kids have grown and moved on. I got divorced. So it gives me something to do, and it's been fun to kind of design products and stuff like that. So it's just been like another muscle to do. And it's really been a blessing. It's really to be able to write checks to charities and give away $250,000 and also connect with people. And I got the size wrong. Oh, my bad. I'll send you another one. Keep it. And, it's been really a blessing. Really.
Yeah.
I've gotten so much out of it.
You're breaking all these deals with these people. You'll get a deal. It's like, I'll bet you Pavel Datsyuk gets 3 assists tonight. If not, I'll buy a shirt and shit like that.
Fun. Yeah, that's fun.
I love this.
It's really cool. That's really cool. And they'll make, and again, they want, it's just fun way for them. Even if they lose, they get something. If they win, they get something. And if they lose, it goes to some sort of charity. So yeah, it's been an amazing, awesome blessing.
Yeah, I think AB's got a bone to pick with you because he's the one guy I've seen win it like 30 plus times.
How are you choosing these winners, man? all you have to do if Chicago is in the playoffs and they're going to overtime, just put Patty Kane. He's going to fucking score. So I've won on Patty Kane probably
Mr.
like
Clutch.
But I tell people, if you're going to pick a person, pick a fourth liner or a defenseman,
Right.
because it's very random. First of all, Mario never got an overtime playoff goal. Messi never got an overtime playoff goal.
Ovi.
No,
Really?
Ovi's
No,
never
can I have
scored
one?
Ovi's never scored an OT playoff goal.
Good to know that. I got to add that to the list. And the thing is, even if you take Ovi and he does score, you're in a pool of hundreds of people.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Maybe even thousands. If you take, it's just a random defenseman, there's going to be 40 people who have him. So if I'm picking 10 winners, you got a 1 in 4 chance of winning. So you're better off taking the third, fourth liner, or even a defense. Maybe not so much a defenseman; they don't score quite as much. Like Edmondson scored for St. Louis, I think, in the Stanley Cup final this year. But if you have him, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get swept.
Yeah, the one that I got, like the first one I ever got right was the Joel Ward one, 2012 against Boston.
Yeah.
And I ended up calling it like as a joke before the game. We had a Caps party or whatever. It was Game 7. We're in my buddy's basement. I'm just like, Joel Ward, overtime winner tonight. I'm calling it.
Nice.
And I was like just joking around, and then he ends up scoring the overtime winner. I was like,
DM me your information, T-shirt size. I'll hook you up.
There we go.
Posthumously.
But yeah, that was probably the first one I think I ever got. But then Patty Kane did it like 4 times, and I was
That's
just
cool. Like you said, that's 2012. So like if you're a 14-year-old kid in 2012, now you're graduating college, you go in the workforce, and like you kind of grew up with the Bucci overtime chat. Like that blows my
Right.
mind.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You know what I mean? And
I feel like I've been playing it for so long, and I've won like twice my whole life. Like I said, AB's won it like 100 times. I feel like I'm like, what the
the only reason why we got you on so that I could get that free shirt. So thank
it
you.
worked. It worked.
KP?
So you do the play-by-play for college hockey championships. Would you say that is the thing you enjoy most about your job? Is that your favorite thing you get to do?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's the highlight of my year. The TV contract, this is the last year coming up. Next season, the last year for NBC. So negotiations will open up this fall. So all the networks can make their bids. And we'll probably find out January or February of 2021 that, they usually announce it early because they got to give networks a chance to hire people. So obviously it would be awesome if ESPN got back into hockey and I got to do NHL play-by-play. I got to the World Cup in Toronto a few years ago and called that crazy Nathan McKinnon overtime goal. I see that on Twitter every now and then. I'm 5 years old again. It's like, I can't believe that's me calling this amazing goal. It's like, that's a cool thing. And
It's such a good call too.
I got
Electric.
not all my calls are great, but because I don't do a lot of games. I'm trying to get better, but I really was happy how that turned out. I was with Darren Pang, which made me very comfortable. He's sitting next to me.
Holy jumping.
Yeah, holy jumping. And Kevin Weeks in between the benches. I love Weeksy, so I was very loose and relaxed. So I would love for ESPN to get back in the hockey game after next year and to be able to do play-by-play. That would be like a great culmination of my career. I mean, if they still want me to do some sports centers, that'd be cool. I love doing sports center. I love doing highlights. Like I said, I love every sport. So it's a good venue for me. ESPN came on the air when I was 13. I always wanted to be on ESPN. It's a place for grinders, for people who work hard, and which kind of fits I grew up in Western Pennsylvania near a mining area. Then I moved to Ohio when I was 11 and grew up in a steel mill town. Both areas were kind of depressed. So I always grew up in really tough blue collar areas. So that's kind of like my mentality. It's what I like being around. It's kind of people I like, kind of environment I like. And ESPN really is kind of like that blue collar grinding type of place. So it fits me. That's why I've been there 23 years. That's why I never left. Because thankfully they keep asking me to stay, but also I don't think I would have left even if somebody offered me twice as much money. It just fits me well.
Right. Is there like a play-by-play guy in the hockey industry that you kind of study and learn from or kind of follow?
I try not to do that. I really want to be my own voice.
Natural.
I want to be different without being distracting. I think that's really important is to try to be courageous and try to be a little different. Obviously, like I said, I grew up on the radio, listening to these great play-by-play guys, and then I've been a big fan of Mike Amarick. And there's a lot of guys, so they're going to seep into your brain anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I really want to be a little bit different and try to approach it with even different vocabulary without being forced. I don't want to force vocabulary. I just want to be myself, have fun, not try to be funny, but have fun, always make the analysts shine. I want to set them up. I want them to be good. I'm better that way. They're the stars. And so, yeah, I'm trying to create something different and try to be something different.
Well, that's kind of the interesting about you when you call games, because you'll mix in that lingo like, oh, saucy or slick mitts or like thin mint on it. And I enjoy that because it's like getting that lingo into the game, getting some fun shit going on. But a lot of people will come back at you and be like, oh, that's corny. Why is he saying this type of stuff? But I mean, mix the lingo in. Like, why the hell not? Like, look at the wheels on him. He's buzzing this, that, and the other.
Buzzing around.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just trying to have fun, and it's not forced. I don't, I'm not trying to be cool. I'm not trying to be different. I don't want attention. I don't care about being famous, or I don't care about awards. I really don't.
Right.
I just want to have a good time, and unfortunately, that's what being at ESPN for 23 years. People, obviously, not everyone's going to like you in any part of life. Not everyone's always going to like you. And so what happens is you start to build up this immunity to any feedback, because you need to protect yourself from people who criticize you, especially when they're, really rude or whatever. And so, but the problem when you build up that kind of defense where nothing can get to you, like nothing,
Right.
There's nothing you can say that could offend me. Like, but the problem is when someone gives you a nice warm compliment, that also doesn't always reach you, which is that's the bad part. Like someone really gives you the heartfelt compliment, and that really meant a lot to me. That column you wrote about your son's last hockey game, that meant a lot to me. I really enjoy watching you on SportsCenter or stuff like that. Sometimes that doesn't get to me as it should and make me feel better, because that's that's the person's intent. They want you to feel good. Hey, you really did something. I love watching you at night. It means a lot to me. But sometimes that also can't get you when you build up that immunity for all the criticism.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like you just mentioned it, the bid to get NHL is going to be coming up shortly. Obviously, your dream would be to call games, NHL games for ESPN. I mean, if you guys don't get that bid, say it stays with NBC or goes elsewhere, and you're still at ESPN, say an NHL team comes to you, hypothetically with we have a play-by-play job, full time. You're the color guy you're the play-by-play guy on TV. Was that something you consider? I mean, you've put your time, you've put your hard work in. Is that something you kind of like to pursue?
I think I would. Yeah, I really would. It probably depend what the team is and where the team is. I probably would have to have some of those.
Pittsburgh or Boston.
Or in Florida. So I can be there in the winter.
Get the golf.
Great golf courses.
Exactly. And vitamin D. But yeah, I would consider I have 2.5 years left on my contract with ESPN. That'll take me to 25, which is a cool number. Like I said, I'd prefer, and ESPN has been very flexible. Some people like Dave Pash, he's a great play-by-play guy for us. We're college basketball, and he does Arizona Cardinals football on the radio. So I could see a thing where if a team came to me and say, hey, we want you to do games, I might be able to do that. And if ESPN gets games, I could maybe do also ESPN.
Right.
If I want to double up.
Right.
And still maybe do SportsCenter in the summer.
Right. There you go.
There you go.
So,
mix it all in.
Yeah. In the old days, they weren't as flexible with that kind of stuff, but now they are. And but yeah, ultimately it'd be great if ESPN got hockey and I could do college game. I could still do the Frozen Four, or a few regular season games, some NHL games, maybe mix in some sports. And I do like do a lot of things. And I could even call college basketball or call a baseball game. That'd be like a dream come true. I love baseball. I grew up loving baseball, playing baseball, and if I could call a baseball game, like I said, I would love to do a little bit of everything. I really do like all sports, still love all sports. And with ESPN Plus, we're kind of in a buying mode now, which is cool with, the Netflix for sports. And so there's a lot of opportunities there. I'd love to call golf or basketball or hockey, and so all kinds of stuff. So,
yeah, we had Joe Beninati on a couple weeks ago, and we were kind of put him on the hot seat about if he'd take a national calling play-by-play job. So we might have an opening here in DC, so you never know. But we'll start to kind of wrap it up here with a couple more questions. So one of the coolest things that I think you do is when you wear the ACHA jerseys on SportsCenter. Mm-hmm. How did that start? I mean, did somebody just send you a jersey, like a team just send you a jersey one day, and we're just like, hey, here you go, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna toss this on, and then teams see it, and then next thing you know, you probably got thousands of ACHA jerseys.
Yeah, how big is that closet, man? You gotta have jerseys.
It's huge. What happened was, for some reason, Maryland sent me a jersey, a club hockey jersey. I don't know why they did. Right about that
Yeah.
time, Scott Van Pelt just got his Sports Center on midnight. You know, they
Right.
they want him off radio and give him this TV show at midnight. I've been actually talking about that for like 10, 15 years. I'm like saying, why don't we have like Fox has Hannity, Bill O'Reilly at the time. Like it's all the same content, but they just have a different anchor. Like why wouldn't Sports Center do that? You know, and then they, you know, and then they did it with Van Pelt at, you know, the midnight show. And kind of like Get Up Now with Greeny, probably about the same way. But so he got his Sports Center, and he was very, you know, me and Scott have always got along great. Our Sports Centers back in the day were a lot of fun. People seemed to react to them on Twitter. They really enjoyed them. They thought, this is like old school sport. This is fun. You know, same age, same sensibility, same sense of humor. And so so he asked me, hey, why don't you come on my show and do the hockey highlights for me? Because you know hockey so well. I said, that sounds great. So I had this Maryland club hockey jersey. So I said, oh, I'll wear this because Scott went to Maryland.
Yeah,
I'll
right.
wear this club hockey jersey on there. So I do that, and you can imagine everyone starts to email me or DM me, hey, if we sent you our jersey, will you wear it on Sports Center? And I said, yeah, sure. So I give my address, and I wear Seton Hall, then I wear Alabama, and then I start doing In the Crease on ESPN Plus, the nightly highlights show on ESPN Plus.
Yep.
I figure, oh, when I do that show, I don't do it all the time. Linda Cohn's the main host. I'll wear club hockey jersey on there as well. And so between Scott and this and In the Crease on ESPN Plus, and I would take obviously I would take a picture of it and then tweet it out. I might have more followers on Twitter than viewers on In the Crease on ESPN Plus. So it's become exponentially grown. I have easy 100 sweaters in my closet of all kinds of cool schools, you know, Florida, Alabama, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it all started because wearing that Maryland jersey.
Wow.
Because Scott went to Maryland and I'm doing this hockey segment. I'll throw this on, and again, whether it's Bucci Overtime Challenge, college hockey, was just a silly hashtag based on the Miracle movie. Why do you play college hockey for the girls?
Yeah.
Just kind of threw it out there. Oh, now I've made hats and T-shirts, and like I said, I probably sold $1 million worth of merchandise in the last 10 years. And after postage and buying it and packaging it up, give the money away. Things just kind of happen to me. I'm not smart enough to plan stuff, to brand stuff.
You're just rolling with it.
The cool thing about ACHA teams is they can make whatever the hell they want for jerseys. Yeah. So like the Oregon Ducks one you wore the one time was pretty sick. Do you have like a favorite? Do you have a favorite one?
That's one of them for sure. Arizona State sent me one that I haven't been able to wear yet because I haven't had a hockey show since they sent it. Whether In the Crease or on Scott's show, but it's a beautiful sweater. I like Alabama's. Like I like those schools that people don't realize they have any kind of hockey team. You know, and obviously the casual hockey fan thinks that they're like all Division I. They can't differentiate between Division I and club hockey.
Right.
They just see a uniform and stuff and think they're all the same. But Oklahoma with the big Sooner Schooner is an awesome one. That's one. The Oklahoma one stands out for sure, and then the Oregon Duck. Those are probably the top two ones that are really awesome.
Another thing that you do in the wintertime that I always loved and tried to be a part of was people would send you pictures of them playing on a pond, a home rink, something in the backyard. You give them a retweet. They'd kind of say where they were. That's cool. I mean, how did that start?
Same thing. I'm not sure. Probably started back when I was at my backyard rink across town here. And I would, thing is, outdoor hockey pictures are such great photography because the light is so good. As anybody knows in photography or videography, lighting is the most important thing. And obviously with outside with the sun and the reflection off the ice, it just creates amazing pictures. So it just looks great. So I wrote a column on my backyard rink. If you Google Buccigross backyard rink, you'll see my old backyard rink. And so those pictures probably where it started. And then I was in actually a documentary called Pond Hockey. They came to my house and they filmed some stuff and they interviewed me and with me and my kids playing in the back. And I was in that. That's kind of cool to be in that little documentary.
I actually think I have that documentary. Is it
on YouTube? That's really cool. And I was in there for a quick second and it was really neat. And so it probably started there. And then once I got more on Twitter and people send it out, then just kind of go with it. And once they get, people are smart. They get the, say where you're from. And then like last year I created, not this past winter, 2 winters ago, I created all the pictures I got. I created these little videos. I mean, because your iPhone, you can create these awesome videos with music and dissolves, and they do all kinds of different ways. And those are really cool. So so it's really, when I was a kid, my first goal in life was to have a wife and kids. That was like my biggest dream. Like that was even more than being a broadcaster. And I got married at 25, dad at 26. And so just having the whole point of family and sports team, to me, they're kind of they're interwoven.
Right.
Teammates, having, being a dad. And I loved all of that. And so that's why those pictures kind of remind me of that, of people coming together, just in those awesome times when you're just having fun. And that's what life's all about. And that kind of gets to me.
Yeah, so with everything going on in the world right now and ranks being shut down, I've really seen a wave of street hockey, kids getting outside, kind of finding the wheels, finding the rollerblades. I'm a big roller hockey guy. With ESPN 8, the Ocho coming back, do you think we could ever see roller hockey or some kind of street hockey out there? Maybe you could do the play-by-play.
That's something good. I'll email that to some of our people saying we should look into that, because that is a good one, and I'd love it.
There's some good tournaments out there.
Yeah, me and Melrose go to one places and call the play-by-play. That'd be really cool. I will send an email tomorrow and
check out like State Wars Hockey. They got some good players. You guys would love it.
Or we just create some crazy, because it is ESPN 8 the Ocho, so it's got to be just fucking off the wall. So we just create some crazy like street hockey type.
Absolutely.
Throwback to the Cali Pro Beach street hockey tournaments.
With the NASCAR corners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That would be crazy. That'd be great right now.
Right. So last question we got for you, Bucci man. We really appreciate you coming on. It's been awesome talking to you. And you may not want to answer this one. You may want to keep your secrets safe. But what's the secret to making the best chicken parm possible?
Well, it starts with a good piece of chicken. I like the thin slice, so I always go thinner slice. And obviously get your mozzarella cheese at the deli, whenever you can, a little better cheese. I like the Paul Newman marinara. That's kind of like my go-to marinara. And so that's right. Those are the 3 key ingredients. A good piece of thin sliced chicken. The Purdue thin slice, Italian style, is good. Crack an egg, put it in a bowl, get all the yolk around it, and then get your Italian seasoning breadcrumbs. Get it all on there, and then put it in your little Pyrex pan, and then put in the oven for 10 minutes at 390, because when they're thin, usually it's 400, but I go a little 390 for maybe 8 or 9 minutes. And then you put the sauce on, cheese over it, back in for 19 minutes. Take it out, put the sauce on it, cheese over it, back in for 9 minutes, and you got your parm.
Are you giving it a nice little, in the cast iron, do you heat the oil up, maybe give it a nice little crisp on each side, and then put that cast iron in the oven?
Yeah, I'm not that meticulous. Like I said, I just use a clear Pyrex pot for 9, take it out, sauce and cheese, for 19, back in for 9. That melts the cheese over, and it's usually perfect.
Bingo. Well, there it is.
Well,
John
I got one last question, Bill.
Go ahead.
So I see you tweet. Well, I've seen you tweet multiple times. I'm just a guy who puts on makeup in front of a TV in front of a recording screen. Over under on the pounds of makeup that you put on.
No, we're men wearing makeup talking about sports.
That's what it is. Yeah.
That's the line. Yeah. Well, we have makeup artists at ESPN, and not too much. They just kind of put a little spray, a little dabble on that. But now with the pandemic, we're putting our own on. So they give us these little packets because they don't want us right in our face. So I just kind of, this little MAC powder, just throw it on. It takes me 12 seconds. I'm on. Nothing. That's it. Just a little.
Nothing crazy. It's not 3 hours like Game of Thrones style.
No, it's like literally right now it's 20 seconds. It's like it's just this little stuff because the lights are bright and white. I don't put anything else on. People, I've been accused of having a hairpiece since I was 30 years old. My job in Providence, people would call and say, "Why are you wearing a?" It's not a hair. Do you think if I had a hairpiece, I'd want my hair to look like this? You know. So yeah, I've been accused of wearing eyeliner and makeup. You know, like I said, I'm half Italian. I got dark features. Don't kill me. Don't hate having dark features.
Bingo. Well, like I said, we really appreciate you coming on. It's been great kind of shooting the shit, talking hockey with you. We're big fans of everything you do over at ESPN, and hopefully we get hockey back and have some Bucci OT challenge to get us through playoffs this year.
I love the name. It's an awesome name you have there. And you guys were three great guys. I'm the fourth guy. 3 great guys had an awesome time, and keep it up.
Yeah.
Bar down. Bar down. the bar and down.